Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to the DKing Combat Podcast. I'm your host, Saad Iqbal, founder of the DKing Combat System. Today, we're talking about something that has nothing to do with punching, kicking, or fighting, but it has everything to do with survival. The title of today's episode is The Red Flags You Ignore Could Cost You Everything. Because here's the truth, most people don't get hurt because they did not know how to fight. Most people get hurt because they ignored the warning signs. They ignored the feeling in their stomach, or we call it your gut telling you, you know, the gut feeling. They ignored their intuition. They ignored the red flags. And by the time they realized something was wrong, it was already too late. Or, as I said, situational awareness. Very, very important. Now, when people hear the word self defense, they usually think of punches, kicks, chokes, takedowns, and weapons. But real self defense starts much earlier than that. Real self defense starts with, yes, you guess it right, awareness. Because if you can spot a problem early enough, you may never need to fight it. And this applies to far more than physical violence. I'll give you an example. When I was really young, I was preparing to join military. So I used to go for running every morning, like really early morning. Okay. I used to see gangs on the streets and all that stuff. I used to see them stopping people, taking their stuff, and I always choose to change my course. I never tried to interrupt or bump into them and to get in trouble because most of the time it was always rival gangs doing things to each other. None of my business. Situational awareness. I was aware they are there. I won't go close. I wouldn't go too close to them. I'll just change my course way before I reach them. So that's why all the time I was running and training, I never get into trouble with them. Okay, that's called situation awareness. Okay, you're aware of the danger and you're not purposely putting yourself in it. Okay, now when we talk about situational awareness, okay, it's not just about fighting or self defense because detecting or spotting a problem early stages, it can apply to business, it can apply to relationships, it can apply to friendships, even to employment, partnerships, even family situations. So it's not just like fighting and all that stuff. The same warning signs show up everywhere. The only difference is the costume they wear. A scammer wears one costume, a manipulator wears another, a criminal wears another, but the behaviors often look surprisingly similar. And that's what we are going to talk about today. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a feeling about someone? Not proof, not evidence, just a feeling. Something felt off. Feeling good that, there's something wrong. Something didn't sit right. Maybe you met them for the first time. Maybe you started working with them. Maybe you entered a business deal. Maybe you started a relationship. And something inside you saying, like, be careful. But then, what happened? You ignored it. You told yourself you were overthinking. You told yourself not to judge people. You told yourself to give them a chance. Then, weeks later, months later, sometimes years later, you discovered. that your first instinct was right. Almost everybody listening has experienced this. I know, I have many times. And that's because human beings are conscious, constantly collecting information. Subconsciously, we collect a lot of information. Because if you see, when we are consciously thinking about stuff, we are processing very little information. But subconscious level, we are processing a lot more. Like we don't even think about it, how much information we are taking subconsciously. Your brain, it notices things before even your conscious mind can explain them. That's why intuition exists. Now, don't misunderstand me, okay? I'm not saying every feeling is correct, okay? But I'm saying that if something feels wrong, pay attention, investigate, observe, don't blindly dismiss it, okay? Being optimistic is good, but being delusional is not good, okay? One of the biggest lies modern society teaches people is this: being nice keeps you safe. It doesn't. Trust me. I know 100%. Being aware keeps you safe. Okay? That's a difference. What is the difference between them? Now listen. Kindness, kindness is a virtue. Okay? Naivety is a liability. You can be kind without being blind. You can be respectful without being gullible. You can be compassionate without becoming a victim. Unfortunately, many people confuse kindness with weakness, and because of that, they ignore warning signs. They don't want to appear rude, they don't want to offend anyone, they don't want to make things awkward. So they tolerate behaviors they shouldn't tolerate, and they ignore things they shouldn't ignore. Now, let's talk about red flags. Not the internet version, not relationship memes, real red flags. The kind that shows up repeatedly throughout life. One of the biggest red flags is when someone refuses to respect boundaries. Think about that. Healthy people respect boundaries. Manipulative people test them. They ask for something small, then something slightly bigger, then something bigger. They are constantly measuring how much access they can gain, how much control they can gain, how much influence they can gain. It's a test, and most people don't realize they are being tested. Now, does that ring a bell? I am sure everyone listening had that experience or currently having it. Now, another red flag is urgency. Whenever somebody tries to force you into making a decision quickly, slow down. Scammers do this. Manipulators do this. Bad salespeople do this. Even criminals do this because pressure reduces thinking. The more rushed you feel, the less clearly you will think. That's exactly what they want. Whenever somebody says, act now, decide now, you don't have time, take a breath, pause, think, don't just follow. The right opportunity rarely disappears overnight. Another major red flag is inconsistency. Watch people's actions, not their words. Words are cheap, actions cost something. Anybody can promise, anybody can talk, anybody can make claims. Character is revealed through behavior. Consistency is what matters. If someone's words and actions don't match, pay attention. Because eventually, one of them is lying. One lesson combat training teaches better than almost anything else in observation. When I'm coaching students, I'm constantly observing posture, movement, energy, behavior, breathing, confidence, fear, intentions. Because human beings communicate much more than words. And the better you become at observing people, the harder it becomes for people to fool you. I'm just going to tell you one story, and nothing to show off, but I got praised by my observation skill, for my observation skills by special services. Okay. I was studying with them and they told me, you got the best observation skill set ever. Okay. But this is just me because I like to observe people. I like to observe basically everything. I can literally sit and watch something random just to observe random people, random sceneries. Like, I just observe everything. That's how my brain works. Now, let's move beyond physical safety. Let's talk business. Because many people lose years of their lives because they ignore business red flags. Maybe you have experienced it. I know I have. A person promises everything, the biggest deal, the biggest opportunity, the biggest future, the biggest partnership. Everything sounds amazing. But when it's time to act, nothing happens. No accountability, no consistency, no follow through, just promises. One of the most expensive mistakes people make is falling in love with potential. By the way, I lost one whole business because of this, because I just chose to trust, and the guy ran away with my business completely. So that's why it's very important to not ignore the red flags. Now, as I was saying, one of the most expensive mistakes people make is falling in love with potential. Instead of evalu- evaluating reality, judge people by what they do. Okay? I'm not asking you to just become rude to everybody or anything. All I'm saying is observe. Observe the actions of people. Judge them not on their words, but judge them on what they are doing, what they do. Not with what they are saying they're gonna do. That one lesson alone can save years of frustration. Like, I can come and claim anything. Oh, I'm gonna do this one, I will do that one, blah blah blah. And then in action, nothing is happening. So based on that, based on how much actions, how much effort they are putting, what they are saying, if it's matching or it's completely opposite, that's where you will judge. So you can save yourself years of frustration. Now, let's talk about relationships. The same rule apply. Healthy relationships don't require you to ignore your values. Healthy relationships don't require constant anxiety. Healthy relationships don't require you to keep explaining obvious boundaries. If someone repeatedly disrespects your standards, believe the pattern. Patterns matters. People can make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. But repeated behavior is a choice. A choice reveals character. All the behaviors they are repeating, they are choosing. Even when you are constantly telling them not to. So that's what become their choices. Okay? That's their actual character. And I'm not talking just because of the podcast or anything. This is my personal experience. Okay. I've been through this and I think I'm the best person to talk about because I lived that part. Here's something I tell students all the time: confidence is not the absence of fear, confidence is trusting yourself. That's a huge difference. The more you trust your judgment, the harder it becomes for others to manipulate you. The more you doubt yourself, the easier you become to influence. This is why personal development matters. This is why discipline matters. This is why combat training matters. Because every time you overcome discomfort, you build trust in yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop outsourcing your decisions to everybody else. I know we are all been to that stage where we are keep asking for validation. Oh, I'm gonna do this one. Do you think it's okay? If I'm gonna do this one, do you think it will be fine? Those kind of things are not okay for the confidence, because when you are doing this, you're basically asking everybody else to decide for you, and you lose confidence because any of them can manipulate you, can influence your decisions. So that's why it's very important for you to trust yourself first. Now, if you are a parent listening to this episode, teach your children one thing. Teach them that feeling uncomfortable is enough. They don't need permission to leave a situation that feels wrong. They do not need permission to walk away. They do not need permission to protect themselves. Many people were taught to be polite at all cost. And unfortunately, some predators depends on that programming. I am totally against that. I even teach that to my daughter. Do not tolerate bully. Teach your kids awareness. Teach confidence. Teach them boundaries. Teach them communication. These skills are often more valuable than physical techniques. As we begin wrapping up today's episode, I want you to remember something. Most disasters don't arrive without warning. Most betrayals don't happen without clues. Most scams don't happen without signals. Most dangerous situations don't appear out of nowhere. The signs were usually there. The problem is that people ignored them. Not because they were stupid, not because they were weak, but because they hoped they were wrong. And hope is not a strategy, awareness is. So, the challenge I want to leave you with today is very simple. Pay attention, listen more carefully, observe more closely, trust your instincts a little more, question things a little more, slow down before making important decisions. Whether it's a business deal, a friendship, a relationship, a partnership, or a situation that simply doesn't feel right. Because awareness is not paranoia, awareness is preparation, and preparation gives you options. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the DKing Combat Podcast. If this episode helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the strongest people are not the ones who fight the most battles. The strongest people are often the ones who recognize trouble early enough to avoid unnecessary battles altogether. Stay sharp, stay prepared, and keep moving forward.